Welcome to the exciting rebirth of Superstar, featuring choose your membership rate as low as just $3 a month. At Superstar, you get expanded, exclusive video scopes each and every week, unlimited access to special horoscopes, class passes for Synchronicity University, consultations with me, and so much more. All of this in the Superstar space. I look forward to meeting you there. Hello, fabulous friends, fans, and superstars. Welcome to your Jupiter special horoscope, looking at Jupiter for the collective as it moves through the sign of Aries. We are going from May 2022 right to May of 2023. I am your astrologer, Nadia Shah. Thank you for being here. Remember, stay tuned to the end. That is when there are preview horoscopes, the first part of an expanded, exclusive video scope for your sign that's available for download at nadiashah.com or at nadiashahsuperstars.com as well. So stay tuned for that. But let's talk about this very powerful transit for the collective, because if ever there was an indication that all of us are about to feel awakened, all of us are about to feel different, this really would be it. I would invite you to think back a little bit. Think back to what was taking place for you as we were finishing off 2021 and right up until the 10th of May 2022. Because over the course of this period of time, not only has Jupiter been moving through the sign of Pisces, but making key contacts here that have magnified the more accepting part of this energy. Jupiter is in one of its home signs in Pisces, and this is where his more spiritual nature is able to come forward. And so all of us were asked to look at what healthy karmic closures look like for us, to strengthen our faith, to strengthen an understanding of the power of acceptance, and also to allow change to happen where it needs to, and where it isn't, to accept it. To seek to see the wisdom of whatever is there now as part of learning from it. Now, all of this is very good advice, of course, to hold with us as we move forward. But I would invite you to contrast this mutable water energy of Pisces. So mutable signs come at the end of a season, and by their nature, they indicate flux and change, or a preparation for change. Water, of course, is one of the elements. It is a symbol of emotion and intuition and art. And so having this sense of mutable water, well, it does indicate that a lot of us might have felt like we had to find a sense of stability within ultimately what was ephemeral, hard to understand, hard to describe, and hard to hold on to. Now contrast that with the energy of Aries. This is the very first sign of the zodiac, the sign of spring, the sign of new beginnings, a pioneer spirit, and it's a sign of the entrepreneurial spirit as well. Think about what it means to be an entrepreneur, even I would say what's been called the middle class ethic, right? And so the middle class ethic is essentially this idea that you can work hard, and based on your own merits, you can direct your life in the direction you desire to go. It is this understanding of not just self-actualization, which is a more creative process, but of self-direction, of tapping into the sacredness of our will and using it wisely. Aries is a sign that is ruled by the planet Mars. Now, Mars as a glyph is very powerful as well. And I'll put that glyph up here somewhere, because if you just look at this symbolically, it is the circle of self-knowledge, of self-containment, and an arrow rising from it. Now that arrow symbolizes direction. So it's essentially this idea of knowing yourself, being yourself, owning all that you are, and then deciding where it is you want to go, how you are now going to focus that energy towards something that matters to you, including manifesting whatever it is that matters to you. And so there's this very different approach to magnifying blessings with both of these energies. Wherever Jupiter goes, it's an invitation to magnify blessings in our lives, to experience a sense of expansion. When Jupiter moves into a brand new sign, we magnify the energy of that sign for the collective. And so whereas Jupiter in Pisces was magnifying healthy karmic closures, magnifying a sense of wonder and magic and art. And again, these qualities are always there, as the qualities of all the signs are always available to us. It's just that wherever Jupiter goes, that energy gets magnified for us, personally and collectively as well. So all of us were encouraged to strengthen our faith and to go with the flow. That's a big way of understanding the energy of Pisces as well. Ruled by Neptune, god of the seas. Just like the seas, sometimes you got to let it take you where it's going to go. However, with Aries, the first sign of spring, we have a sense of being aware of yourself, being aware of your power, and exerting that power with passion and with conviction. Now, this is cardinal fire. So cardinal signs start a season, and they speak to beginnings. But they also speak to a purity of the energy of the element. Fire has to do with our will, our creativity, our passions, and what we're passionate about. It has to do with confidence and allowing ourselves to shine bright, to burn bright. And so now we are being encouraged to see the ways in which we might magnify this light within us, the ways in which we might be able to recognize our agency and focus it in a direction that matters to us. Now, here are some things also to take into consideration with just understanding Jupiter in Aries. The pioneering spirit can show up in all kinds of ways. A lot of us are going to be feeling ready for fresh starts and new beginnings. Many of us are going to be ready to play. And so I've been doing this Jupiter special now for many years, which is wonderful. Thank you for watching. And what's interesting is that with each sign that Jupiter moves into, that very energy, right, the characteristics of that energy become what we're tapping into that much more. And so way back when I was telling you about Jupiter in Pisces and how this would signal sort of the end or a sense of a shift away from the pandemic. Now, with Jupiter in Aries, a lot of us are ready to come out and play, right? This is like our version of the Roaring 20s. This is our version of feeling as if we're ready to really embrace life that much more, to own our happiness, to direct ourselves in the direction of our happiness as well. But it's really the experience of life and all the fire and emotion that it entails that is indicated here. This is also a sign of childlike wonder and childlike play. So a lot of us are going to be ready to play. A lot of us are going to feel ready to get out there, to enjoy ourselves, to really see where it is that our own fire and passions take us. Now, there are different ways to understand this. Just doing more fun things, I think we'll see that more. I think we're likely going to see more of a ruckus as people are having fun. That's something we'll notice for the collective, especially. And what I mean by that is, of course, dancing, movement, right? Aries is the energy of physical movement, of sweating, especially sweating outdoors, and of the athlete. And so I think as part of this, more people are going to feel like they want to do things like go dancing, be outdoors, be around other people. And what does sweat represent? It represents purification. It represents engagement with life, feeling our bodies as alive. And physical activity helps us to do that. So I think more people are going to feel more engaged with life on that level. Feeling more physical energy, encouraging you to do more out and about in the world, including things that are fun for you to do. Of course, with the pandemic and social distancing, it's interesting because I was watching this little news clip. I'll try to find it if I can, and I'll link to it below. If not, please forgive me. But it was basically this idea of two people see each other from across the courtyard or their buildings. One person's in one building, the other person's in another. But it's the pandemic. They can't actually meet in person. So they're having dates online. They're having dates over Zoom. And when they do get together, they don't get to touch each other, right? This kind of stuff. One thing the pandemic did, we're going to 2020 in particular, when this energy was really magnified, and we saw some of it in 2021 as well. But it brought a lot of our feelings about our life and the truth about how we feel about our life to the surface. It asked us, how do we really feel? What is our truth? And in that process, a lot of people went through a lot of changes. I saw it, right? Lots of people became very aware of their loneliness and so started to actively interact with other people online. Some people ended relationships. Other people established those relationships even more closely. Some people had children where they didn't have them before. And so there were all kinds of ways in which our truth led us in different directions. But some of that process may not have been as accelerated as it is about to be. And so I do think that for those of us who have felt that we haven't had that physical connection with other people, that just isn't going to work for us anymore. There's going to be a desire for presence, for engagement, for feeling everything you feel, yes, but also actually feeling as if you're engaged with life, and that includes romantically, that includes being with people, that includes being able to take your life in the direction you choose and go wherever it is that you choose. And so as part of this, I mean, because the energy of Aries has to do with trusting your impulses, directing it, and going with it. While Jupiter in Pisces dissolved borders, dissolved restrictions, it is going to be Jupiter in Aries that invites us to now embrace the possibilities, now embrace the sense of potential that's available to us, and how it is that we are going to own the directions we desire to go, literally and figuratively, as part of tapping into a sense of freedom or a greater awareness of options available to us. This may be part of that sense of new beginnings that a lot of us may be looking forward to. And I think this is where people may feel ready to make big changes that actually started, like the seeds of them began way back in 2020, with so much changing astrologically and literally as well. Now, interestingly, in addition to the athlete, and I do think athletes are going to be celebrated, we should see some cultural examples of athletes being held up for their more inspiring qualities that much more. We may also see some of this related to police officers, related to military personnel as well. And so because Aries is the sign that corresponds to those frontline types of people involved in law and order, let's say, and the exertion of that, I think we are going to see more of attention paid in that regard, and understanding that perspective in a different way as well. And I'll talk about that in just a moment, because I actually think there's going to be a very important moment as part of this. I mentioned that the sign of Aries is associated with entrepreneurship, and I think we will see entrepreneurship celebrated and supported as well in new ways. Consider that At different times, there are different ways in which we may celebrate and encourage different types of professions. And so with entrepreneurship, there are ways in which governments might do that. It is Jupiter that sometimes is associated with governments as well, along with Saturn. Saturn more in the respect of the structures that hold societies together, but Jupiter in terms of the more idealistic understanding of this. So we may see governments around the world supporting their entrepreneurs in some way, whether that's with grants or otherwise. Also, police officers, military personnel are covered by the energy of Aries. And so we may see attention paid to these particular types of people. And Jupiter being an energy of healing, understanding that role in particular a little bit more holistically. And I'll talk about that in just a second, because I actually think that there's going to be a very important moment in regards to these types of professions taking place as part of one of the peak moments of this larger transit. So let's talk about some important key moments here. It is going to be on the 10th of May, 2022, that Jupiter will enter the sign of Aries and will be there right to the 28th of October, 2022. Now, this is chapter 1 of 2, and this move of Jupiter through the sign of Aries is in 2 distinct parts. In both parts, both chapters, Jupiter isn't necessarily reaching out to other power players in traditional types of conversations, right? And what I mean by that is it's what astrologers call Ptolemaic aspects. So they aren't really coming into play at a time like this with Jupiter in Aries. And so we're not getting those types of mathematically precise traditional conversations between the big power players and Jupiter. Other planets, yes, the personal planets, yes, we will have key moments of them connecting with Jupiter. However, there is one moment in chapter 1 that I think is going to be very notable, and it happens right around the 28th of July. So there's a couple of things taking place here. One is that Jupiter will slow down to a standstill and officially go retrograde. Now, whenever it is that a planet is changing directions, it is as close to the Earth as it would get. And its symbolism becomes that much more important, that much more magnified for us. And so its power is considered especially heightened as a planet is changing directions. As Jupiter is beginning to go retrograde, this is where he is at the height of his power. And it is here that Jupiter will reach out in supreme harmony to a new moon taking place in the sign of Leo, fellow fire sign Leo. And so this is what astrologers call a trine. It's easy energy. It's magnifying the new moon possibilities that much more, and the positive, more hopeful, more promising parts of that new moon. A new moon in Leo, well, that magnifies confidence at this time and confidence being rewarded. The energy of Leo can be associated with entrepreneurship when we're aligning our passions with entrepreneurial endeavors. It's also an energy that's considered very creative, associated with things like gambling, associated with enjoying your life, and knowing that you're worthy yourself. And so one very immediate application I see for this is I would not be surprised if there was some very notable, very big type of lottery playing out at this time. And so once in a while, well, look, there's always some kind of lottery playing out somewhere, right? And some lotteries, normally, you get $1 million of whatever currency you're in. Let's say $1 million, or a couple $1 million. It is much, much more rare to see like sort of jackpots in the hundreds of millions or $1 billion. And I think that's the kind of thing we are likely to see under the light of this particular new moon. Other ways in which I think this energy is going to play out, well, it has to do with celebrity. The energy of Leo is about celebrity and the people we're paying attention to, and seeing that spotlight on certain people magnify at this time. I think there may likely be new people emerging at this time, new celebrities that are getting a whole lot of attention here. And new in terms of their presence is new, but new also in terms of, and very possibly using new types of platforms or technologies and things like that. So we're already seeing that happen in terms of TikTok being a newer application. So it'll be interesting to see if there's another application that comes out pretty soon as part of helping people tap into its potential to share whomever it is that they are and whatever it is that they do. And so there's a sense of new types of people in new ways getting a lot of attention, becoming celebrities in some way. So I think we may see that as well. But this is ultimately an energy that is very fortunate where it comes to trusting yourself, where it comes to trusting your own creative instincts, doing what it is that you really want to do. That's where the energy is especially fortunate with this Jupiter speaking in supreme harmony with that new moon. And so I do think that that is, in chapter 1, likely going to be the most important moment for Jupiter. And then Jupiter will, on the 28th of October, just in time for Halloween, retrograde out of Aries back into Pisces, and will be in the later degrees of Pisces, what astrologers call anaretic degrees. And this is basically points of concentration. And so we're going to see Piscean energy magnified that much more, but really personally, it helps us to wrap up loose ends. Especially those loose ends that have been there since the end of 2021 and right to the middle of May of 2022. So it helps us to understand the events of that larger time period. I would even say it helps us to understand the events of early May. As we were finishing April and early May in our own lives, we're likely to see those events differently, reach a newfound depth of understanding, strengthen our faith in some way, as part of understanding how it is that we want to more consciously move forward, not just taking action for its own sake, which is part of Aries energy. Sometimes Aries energy can be very impulsive. It can have a stimuli and immediately respond. But how do we do that with wisdom? I think that's part of what many of us are going to be understanding as we navigate to this period of time with Jupiter at anaretic degrees of Pisces. And then just in time for the winter solstice, the 21st of December, Jupiter moves back into the sign of Aries. Now, I find this interesting for a couple of reasons. One is, if you think back, it was just in time for the winter solstice in 2020, 2 years earlier, that we had both Saturn and Jupiter moving into the sign of Aquarius, 0 degrees of Aquarius. They met. And I spoke about the significance of this at length at the time. It was called the Great Conjunction. You can find info of that here on my channel. The 2020 video talked about it because it was right at the end of 2020. And around that time, I was talking about it a lot. I mean, I thought this was incredibly exciting, and I still do. I still think that the energy of that conjunction is going to be more and more fulfilled in the years ahead. I mean, when I do the video coming up for 2023, we're going to have Pluto moving into Aquarius. Pluto is going to activate that 0 degree Aquarius. So there's lots to look forward to here. I will keep talking about that. But I mention it now because as we are at the winter solstice, I find this so intriguing. We had this sense of Jupiter meeting Saturn at the winter solstice 2 years earlier. And Jupiter and Saturn represent a new beginning together. It's like taking a dream and manifesting a different reality. Now we have the energy of Aries coming in. And Aries, at 0 degrees Aries, that is what astrologers call a sextile to the Great Conjunction point. And so almost to the day, 2 years earlier, we had Jupiter meeting Saturn at 0 degrees with mathematical precision in a harmonious sign. And so as we get this harmonious alignment to the great conjunction point of Jupiter now, it's almost as if in some way we'll be taking what it is that we came to understand. Now, let's start with personally, what we came to understand more personally towards the end of December, mid to late December. How are we now going to carry that understanding forward? How are we going to blaze new trails in our own life as a result? Consider this as well. It was at that time, right around that time, that vaccines were announced, vaccines were rolled out. Now, however you felt about that, that is a separate thing. You know, if you've watched me for a while, I don't like to say anything controversial. I try my darndest not to, because I like bringing people together. And I think that for me personally, that's not my way. But I have so much respect for people who are willing to put themselves out there and say things that maybe are not necessarily agreed on by all. And really, what is agreed on by all anyways anymore, especially with Jupiter in Aries, right? But here we have this energy of initiating, this energy of beginning, this energy of blazing new trails. And I feel like whatever's taking place for us as we get to the winter solstice of 2022 will connect to what was taking place back then. So again, we had vaccines being rolled out. We had this promise and potential of finally moving forward. Now, what does it mean to take that to an even more determined level? We had that promise of feeling like, okay, we could begin again. And we were looking at what science means to us and how it is that we're going to incorporate that understanding. Now, what does it mean to move forward with that? Interestingly, the energy of Aquarius is one that is thinking about the collective. It's a sign with an interesting contrast to it. So on the one hand, it is energy that is concerned about, thinks about the collective, but also is highly individualistic. It's an energy that says, I am special, and therefore all of us are special, and therefore none of us is special. The energy of Pisces, the sign after Aquarius, says, we are all one. We are in communion. The individual does not exist. In the sign of Aquarius, we're thinking of other people, but we have a sense of ourselves. In the sign of Aries, it's all about you, right? It is all about the individual. Remember, going back to the glyph of Mars, this idea of knowing yourself, that circle, that self-contained energy is highly personal. It's highly individualistic. And that energy being directed outwards. Again, it is a personal sense of where you individually want to go and what you individually are going to do. And so this idea of personal autonomy, personal responsibility is going to start to become that much more important. The conversation is going to become a lot more a norm of, okay, you do what you want, I'm going to do what I want. And I'm going to go my own way. So we still have that sense of connection to what was taking place in December of 2020. But we have an advancement in a sense, and we have a sense of more of a focus on the individual. And so I think we're going to see that play out in all kinds of ways. People standing out that much more, whereas in the energy of Aquarius, it was about groups of people together, thinking a certain way, doing certain things. Now it's going to be about, what does one person think? Who's taking the lead? Who's standing out from the crowd? Who's shining? And that is in all kinds of ways, right? Not just related to the pandemic things I referred to a little bit earlier, but in all kinds of ways. It becomes a lot more about the individual self, individual power, individual responsibility, individual direction, individual decisions, individual autonomy. And so this is where we start chapter 2 of Jupiter in Aries. And it is going to be here that, again, Jupiter not reaching out necessarily across the sky, but Jupiter is going to have key meetings in the sign of Aries that are going to be incredibly important. By far of the entire Jupiter in Aries transit, by far the most important moment is going to be the 12th of March. It is the 12th of March that Jupiter will meet Chiron in the sign of Aries. And I think this is going to be an incredibly important moment for all of us in one way or another, but certainly for the collective as well. Now, there is a Chiron special horoscope on my YouTube channel. I'll try to remember to link it below as well, because I feel as if, and I touched on this just a little bit earlier where I spoke about police, right? And I feel that Chiron moving through Aries right to the middle of this decade is about helping us to understand how we are exerting ourselves more consciously to understand it, but really to understand where it is that very often our first impulses are rooted in pain, are rooted in the unresolved things from our childhood. Our understanding of how to exert power and be powerful presences is sometimes rooted in the things that we don't want to look at. And so in that Chiron special horoscope, I spoke about this moment that I witnessed that really changed things for me so dramatically. It stands out in my psyche, and this was so many years ago. And essentially what I saw was a police officer not being very nice to someone. And there was a whole bunch of police officers around. And there was a young female, and there was also a police officer who was a young female. And this police officer, of all the police officers, she was the smallest in terms of her height, in terms of her frame. And she was being very aggressive with this young lady. And I saw like other police officers looking and just kind of shaking their heads like, oh, there she goes again, that kind of thing. But what I felt in that moment, and it was so obvious to me, it was so stark to me, I felt like this police officer, this person, was doing what had been done to her. She was doing what she knew how to do. She was displaying and performing power for all the times that she had felt powerless in her own life. And that moment was so revealing to me, so stark to me. It made me realize in that moment that so much of what so many of us do really can be rooted in that very deep pain and trauma as well. But of course, it's what we do with it that matters, how we direct it that matters. Choosing to bring those parts of us that have been hurt and are unconscious to the conscious, that's what matters. And in that moment, I felt like, I know it was hard for, of course, the young lady who was the victim in that moment. It was so hard to see that. But I thought about the harm that the person being aggressive is doing to themselves, not just to the person that they are harming, but how they are harming themselves in perpetuating harm, in replaying past experiences that maybe are so hard to look at. In a way, us repeating, mimicking, replaying these, role-playing these past experiences that we saw growing up. It's like one way of making the people who loved us right or okay. And we do that psychologically because if we were to admit that it was not okay, the consequences of that to our psyche could be so great that sometimes the psyche isn't ready to handle that. And that's actually something that was spoken of in an incredible essay. One of my most favorite essays by Sigmund Freud is called On Melancholia. Sometimes it's called On Mourning and Melancholia. It's my very favorite essay by Sigmund Freud. That is the one to read, where he really explains this whole phenomenon of when the psyche is not ready to acknowledge the root of its pain, then that same energy will be directed in different ways. And so I saw that displayed in that moment. Okay, so I mentioned this, I remind you of this now because Jupiter will meet Chiron, and this is a very important moment of this entire transit. And I think this is where all these wounds come to the surface, but the potential to heal comes to the surface as well. And so I think that this is going to play out in all kinds of ways, including the examples we may see culturally of those who are tasked with policing, those who are tasked with being in the military. There's a reason why so many people who go into the military have post-traumatic stress disorder, because it is a traumatic thing to perpetuate violence against others and to witness violence as well. Now, regardless of your industry, I feel like this moment is so powerful because ultimately what it does is it stirs what needs to be healed. That is a part of Chiron. Chiron ultimately invites us to look at those spaces where we think healing might never happen, but also to take action nonetheless. Chiron, mythologically speaking, went through pain and through the grace of the gods became immortal, became a constellation, was relieved of that pain. And I feel like Jupiter meeting Chiron is going to be an opportunity for all of us in at least one area of life to feel as if we've moved through something painful and now we're on the other side, healed and better, able to more fully understand and embrace something that feels like authentic power, if you will, and our most authentic selves, and to live more from that place. And so, yes, we may see some of this profound healing take place in certain professions like police officers, but also with athletes as well. I think this is going to be a chance to really look at what it is that we ask of, request of, expect of, demand of our athletes and those athletes that we look up to. So I think there's going to be some moments there where we may see some vulnerability there that is meant to lead to honesty, that is meant to be transcended. And also, of course, in other ways as well, this is an energy that has to do with children. It is the first sign of the zodiac in Aries. And so we may see some real steps taken as well to move towards healing children around the world as well. Physical healing so that more people feel stronger than ever. We may see some breakthroughs in healing or in medicine related to the muscular structure, related to blood, related to the skull or the eyes. So that's some advancements that we may see taking place as well, at least medically speaking and globally as well. But yes, this moment is notable and it is going to be one that stands out for many of us. It is a rare meeting as well. It is Jupiter and Chiron that get together about every 14 years or so. So when they get together, it is always a turning point that is rooted in honesty, that is rooted in healing, that is rooted in transcending pain of the past towards something more holistic and more honoring of the self, something that connects with a legacy we more desire to create for ourselves. So I think this is going to be really powerful. Now, another important date happens on the 11th of April, and this is the luckiest day of the year, 2023. This is the Sun meeting Jupiter in the sky. These two planets get together once a year. This is their moment, and as they get together, it is going to magnify blessings in at least one area of life. However, the thing is, with the Sun and Jupiter getting together, this energy requires us to be proactive. It isn't an energy that has good things just kind of showing up, okay? There's other things happening in the sky in 2022 in particular that are a part of that. I'm looking at you, North Node. I'm looking at all that's happening with the North Node in 2022 in particular at the end of July, beginning of August. Right around that station of Jupiter in chapter 1, Mars and Uranus are going to conjunct the North Node. So that's about like karmic newness just showing up. I've spoken about that. I will speak about that. Year ahead video for this year has that. I will link to it below. But Jupiter and the Sun in 2023 on April 11. This is energy where you have to take steps in order to maximize the potential. And so again, it depends on where this is taking place in your chart. You can stay tuned for those preview horoscopes as part of the expanded horoscopes at the end of this video to understand what part of your sky you want to focus on here. But there are going to be blessings that are magnified in one way or another at this time. And it really is about allowing positive change to occur. In the sign of Aries, action is emphasized. So ownership, autonomy, action, these become key words as part of understanding the best way forward. Now, another day I wanted to mention is the 2nd of March. So the 2nd of March is when we are going to have Venus conjunct Jupiter. This is the most romantic day of the year of 2023. So again, it does require us to be proactive, to do something with it, whatever that may be. Be out and about, spend time with people, do something romantic for yourself, for others. There's going to be such a desire for love and romance. I'm not saying that someone you meet is going to be forever and ever. It could be that. But a more likely scenario is an important understanding in love, an infusion of love in your life, and in at least one area of life. Most likely romantic love. This will be, it is Aries after all, most likely it's passionate love, physical love. But regardless, a universal love can be part of this energy as well in a very powerful way. Now, another date I wanted to mention was the 28th of March, 2023, because this is Mercury meeting Jupiter in the sky. Mercury meeting Jupiter in the sky as a general principle tends to be the best day of the year for signing contracts. Like that's first and foremost. Best day of the year for negotiations as well. Now, the great thing is at this point, all planets will be direct. The other thing is that Mercury is not in shadow. And so, yes, this idea of really sealing the deal, if you will, getting that confirmation, getting that signature on that contract, coming to an agreement, these can go exceptionally well. It is the best day of the year to sign contracts as a general principle when these two meet in the sky. And then we get to the 16th of May. Well, that is when Jupiter will leave the sign of Aries, not to return for over a decade to come. All good things must come to an end, but really what this is our blessings move on, right? That's the great thing about Jupiter. As Jupiter moves around the zodiac one at a time, gets to bless different areas of life, one at a time, and to our advantage. What I love about this transit for us, well, look, one thing I do want to be sure to mention, in 2025, Neptune is going to start moving into the sign of Aries. And so I do feel like this is a little bit of a foreshadow, just a little bit. Do watch what takes place for you, especially as this transit begins. So in the month of May, even into June a little bit as well, because it is then that you're going to start to understand what it feels like to merge spirituality with self-autonomy and your own sense of will, your own sense of direction, your own sense of power. What area of life is this showing up for you? How are you directing this energy? This is what you want to pay attention to, because we right now are on the precipice of big cultural, societal shifts. I've been telling you since like 2018, I've been telling you the world that we have at the end of this decade is going to be a very different world than we have as we start the decade. It doesn't happen like that. It happens one step at a time, one moment at a time. And that's the case now. It is going to be now, as we get Jupiter just stepping into the sign of Aries, that we're going to get that little bit of a feeling of what it is for you to take ownership for your own spiritual energy. What does it mean to decide on the direction you want to go in and really spiritualize that pathway going forward? This is a marked shift that is coming up later this decade in how we understand spirituality, because wherever Neptune goes, our understanding of how spirituality is expressed goes through a transformation as well. Now, in the case of Jupiter moving into Aries, our understanding of blessings, including spiritual blessings, goes through a shift. And more of us are willing to participate in our blessings more than ever. More of us are willing to take ownership, take action, and decide on a direction, to trust ourselves and to be ourselves as part of maximizing not just our personal potential, but maximizing opportunity, real, practical, but also emotional and spiritual as well. It is in taking ownership now that some of the greatest blessings transpire. We really do have the power to change so much for ourselves for the better. Well, thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned right now. Preview horoscopes are coming up. And remember, you can get the expanded, exclusive, full video scope as a download at nadiashah.com, or as part of being one of my superstars at nadiashahsuperstars.com, where you get expanded exclusive video scopes each and every week for each and every sign for as low as just $3 a month with choose your membership rate. Higher tiers get you things like all access passes to Synchronicity University events, consultations with me, and so much more. All of this in the superstar space. I look forward to meeting you there. I hope that you enjoyed these preview horoscopes. I hope that you enjoy this overview video. And also do stay in touch with me on social media as well, because it is going to be there that I will be talking about the nuances, what that means for you and your sign. I'll be talking about in the superstar space. But yes, I am really looking forward to walking this journey of Jupiter and Aries with you. I think we're going to have a lot of fun together with this. And thank you again for watching. It'll be a great transit. Enjoy. And here come the horoscopes for each and every sign. Thank you. Hello, fabulous superstar Aries. Welcome to your Jupiter special horoscope. Looking at Jupiter moving through your sign, we're going to cover a period from May 2022 right to May of 2023. I am your astrologer, Nadia Shah. Thank you for being here. What a remarkable transit this is. It is big. And in many ways, and for many Aries out there, this is going to be a defining chapter. It is going to be now that you are invited to redefine yourself, to look at your identity. And as a result of getting honest with yourself about who you are and where it is that self-definition is ready to evolve, all kinds of changes can come forward. The ancients spoke about how this was the beginning of a brand new 12-year cycle for you. It begins with you knowing yourself more clearly, defining your priorities differently, shifting something within. And from there, over the course of the coming 12 years, you will take that understanding to different areas of life, one at a time, thereby transforming your entire life for the better as you need to. There are big sweeping changes set to take place. Hello, fabulous superstar Taurus. Welcome to your Jupiter special horoscope. Looking at Jupiter moving through the sign of Aries for your sign, we're going from May 2022 right to May of 2023. I am your astrologer, Nadia Shah. Thank you for being here. It is a remarkable astrological transit without a doubt. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't first say, look, we're going to have Jupiter moving through the sign just before yours, which means that at the end of this transit, Jupiter will move into your sign. That is a brand new chapter for you. It is this year that sets the stage for those bright new beginnings that are right around the corner. Use this time well, and you'll be able to feel like your life is launching in new directions that much more. You'll be able to tap into all of that very positive, expansive energy that much more once we navigate into next year of 2023. For now, though, it is Jupiter moving into a part of the sky that has to do with closing karmic ties, ending karmic chapters, so that you can live that much more fully. It's about you bringing healthy closures and karmic closures where you need so that you can be more present. Hello, fabulous superstar Gemini. Welcome to your Jupiter special horoscope. Looking at Jupiter move through the sign of Aries from May 2022, and we're going right to May 2023. I am your astrologer, Nadia Shah. Thank you for being here. What a remarkable transit this is. It is a big one. Whenever it is that Jupiter changes signs, this is energy we feel. We feel the shift, and this is certainly the case for you. It is Jupiter now that is going to be moving into a friendship-oriented part of the sky. I think you're going to love this energy. On the one hand, you are a very spontaneous sign. You add to this very social vibe coming in, you connecting with other people that much more easily, making connections that are truly fortunate for you in all kinds of ways. Well, that becomes part of the characteristic of this period of time ahead. Now, as Jupiter is moving through this part of the sky, he's going to invite you to dream big. He's going to invite you to look at the hopes and wishes you have for your life and to go for even bigger opportunities than you knew before. Hello, fabulous superstar Cancer. Welcome to your horoscope for Jupiter in Aries and what it means for you and your sign as part of this special horoscope. I am your astrologer, Nadia Shah. Thank you for being here. Now, we're going from May 2022 right to May of 2023. This is an exciting transit for you as Jupiter moves into the top of your sky. This is going to bring a newfound visibility to you. This is a part of the sky that has to do with how the world sees you, and you are about to light right up. This is career. This is life purpose. And whether it is that you're using this energy in terms of your success, in terms of understanding and aligning with higher goals where it comes to your career, or whether it is finding deep spiritual conviction to align with life purpose, this is going to be a time when it feels as if your life moves onward and upward towards success as you define it, towards success that matters to you. Now, as part of this larger transit, we have got some remarkable energies playing out here. We have here Jupiter inviting you to think bigger than you have before. And that for some is going to mean going in new directions. But I think for the overwhelming majority of Cancerians out there, this is going to represent a time when you are owning your own power. You're being a lot more proactive to move towards the success that you desire. And so that could be proactive in terms of your own initiatives. And so, hello, fabulous superstar Leo. Welcome to your Jupiter special horoscope. Looking at Jupiter moving through the sign of Aries from May 2022, going right to May of 2023. I am your astrologer, Nadia Shah. Thank you for being here. What a remarkable transit this is. This is a big one. As Jupiter moves into fellow fire sign, Aries, well, this is just going to expand your horizons and expand your world. Think about the fact that you're coming out of a part of the sky that Jupiter's in that had to do with matters of consequence and transformation and understanding wealth, understanding power. So these are really heavy duty topics. Well, now the energy gets a lot lighter. It gets a lot more hopeful, a lot more optimistic as well. This part of the sky that Jupiter is moving into helps you to see the world around you much more optimistically. It helps you to understand your spiritual orientation to the world differently, but also literally grants you more opportunities out in the world than you knew before. This is a part of the sky that has to do with... Hello, fabulous superstar Virgo. Welcome to your Jupiter special horoscope, looking at Jupiter in Aries and what that means for your sign. We're going from May 2022 right to May of 2023. I am your astrologer, Nadia Shah. Thank you for being here. It is a remarkable astrological time. I will tell you, this is so powerful as Jupiter moves into a part of the sky for you that has to do with power and the taboo and transformation, regeneration and rebirth. Well, you can see here, this is a remarkably transformative time, a time that's going to redefine what power is for you and align you with it, a time that is going to have you very courageously confronting what previously has been taboo to you and finding new layers and levels of intimacy with yourself and with others. So there's so much to talk about here. Let's take it one at a time. This part of the sky has to do with power. Now, for some, that's going to mean authentic power and getting in touch with what that uniquely means for you and aligning with it. Sometimes power requires change. It requires us to see through what previously might have been illusion, where it was that we bought into false forms of power. Well, you're about to have your own crash course in this regard, helping you to redefine power on your own terms. But of course, not every Virgo necessarily is going to be thinking about authentic power. And so where it is that you are just looking to align yourself. Hello, fabulous superstar Libra. Welcome to your Jupiter special horoscope. Looking at Jupiter moving through the sign of Aries from May 2022, and we're going right to May of 2023. And what that means for you and your sign. I am your astrologer, Nadia Shah. Thank you for being here. What a remarkable astrological transit this is. It is now going to be Jupiter that moves into your opposite sign. And this part of the sky has to do with partnerships of all kinds. That's business partnerships and professional alliances, but romantic alliances as well. Now, the ancients believed that this was one of the best times to either meet somebody that you would marry or actually get married, to advance established relationships. In business, this can be a time when joining forces with other people, one-on-one, leads to mutual prosperity. And it can be a time of healing relationships and partnerships established in those in the past in a way that helps you to move forward into the future. And so you can see here how we had Jupiter moving through a part of the sky that had to do with your daily life. So it was like you were getting yourself and your life and your health in order. And now Jupiter is moving. Hello, fabulous superstar Scorpio. Welcome to your Jupiter special horoscope, looking at Jupiter moving into the sign of Aries and what that means for you and your sign. We are going from May 2022 right to May of 2023. I am your astrologer, Nadia Shah. Thank you for being here. It is a remarkable astrological transit, without a doubt. This is a very big move. Jupiter moving into a part of the sky for you that has to do with your daily life is going to encourage you to bring awareness and power to your day, to your smallest moments, to notice how small things can add up to very big and very positive results. Now, whether this is blessing you with more work-related opportunity, better work relationships with the people who surround you there. Now, also, this can benefit you and bless you where it comes to your health and an overall sense of well-being, feeling like it gets a whole lot better. Well, all of this is promised over this larger Jupiter transit. But ultimately, it is the power of those small moments where you build mastery. And in some ways, you're aligning with greater expertise than you knew before, simply by what it is that you choose to repeatedly do again and again. And so with this energy, there are different ways to understand the power of your day. Let's start with your work because it is. Hello, fabulous superstar Sagittarius. Welcome to your Jupiter special horoscope. Looking at Jupiter moving through the sign of Aries and what that means for you in your sign from May 2022. And we're going right to May of 2023. I am your astrologer, Nadia Shah. Thank you for being here. What a remarkable astrological transit this is. With Jupiter moving into fellow fire sign Aries, it is your own element that is lit up at this time. Jupiter is moving into a part of the sky for you that has to do with what you want in your heart of hearts in every area of life. What it means for you to tap into the power of what you want and to trust yourself. to trust your creative instincts, and to see how it is that your creativity can lend itself to you experiencing some really big gains right now. This part of the sky also has to do with the things you create, including the children in your life, or you feeling like a big kid. And so whatever it is that you're creating, or whether it is that you just want to experience better relationships and opportunities where it comes to children, well, we've got lots of blessings in store here and so much more. This is a part of the sky that has to do with the lottery and winning the lottery. And so you can see Jupiter representing big blessings. Well, look, good things are on offer when Jupiter moves in. Hello, fabulous superstar Capricorn. Welcome to your Jupiter special horoscope, looking at Jupiter moving through the sign of Aries and what that means for you and your sign. We're going to go from May 2022 right to May of 2023. I am your astrologer, Nadia Shah. Thank you for being here. It is a remarkable astrological transit, without a doubt. Big moves happening in the sky now. And boy, is this a very special time. It is going to be over the course of this period of time that you are going to come to understand what home means to you, whether that's a literal space, whether that's within your own body, within your own skin. This is about finding peace right where you are, nurturing your own ideas in your own time and space, feeling safe within. And from here, you'll be able to go out into the rest of the world. The things you put into place now will lend themselves to massive manifestations 6 years from now. And so use this time well, knowing that you are laying the foundation for great things ahead. And so let's take it one at a time. Let's talk about this area of life that's going to be so lit up for you. And this has to do with home first and foremost. And there are all kinds of ways to understand what home is uniquely for you. For some, that's going to mean home having to do with your living situation. What often happens with Jupiter moving into this part of the sky is that home and your living situation. Hello, fabulous superstar Aquarius. Welcome to your Jupiter special horoscope, looking at Jupiter moving through the sign of Aries and what it means for you and your sign. We're covering a period from May 2022 right to May of 2023. I am your astrologer, Nadia Shah. Thank you for being here. It is a remarkable astrological transit, without a doubt. This is Jupiter moving into a communicative, mind-oriented part of your sky. Whatever your unique voice is, you are about to use it. You are about to share it in sometimes new ways, but certainly in very expansive ways at that. This part of the sky has to do with those technologies that are right at our fingertips, that we're used to, that have become a part of our daily life. Well, it becomes these very technologies that get that much more attention, that much more motivation to use them well. This part of the sky also connects you to learning. It connects you to what you say, how you say, what you're thinking about, what you're curious about. Wherever Jupiter goes, blessings follow, and this is blessings related to these areas and so much more. So there's a lot to talk about here as we navigate forward in this time. So let's start with this idea of learning, because I do think that one of the first things you'll notice. Hello, fabulous superstar Pisces. Welcome to your Jupiter special horoscope, looking at Jupiter moving through the sign of Aries and what that means for you in your sign. And we're covering a period from May 2022 right to May of 2023. I am your astrologer, Nadia Shah. Thank you for being here. It is a remarkable astrological transit. As Jupiter gears up and leaves your sign, or at least steps out of your sign at first, this is a chance for you to take all the things that you've learned over the last year or so, where you've been asked to connect with yourself, to connect with your potential, to connect with your faith as Jupiter moves through your sign. And now you begin a journey of taking that understanding out into the world, one area of life at a time. And this is a part of the sky that has to do with money. It has to do with money you earn, money you spend, prosperity, abundance, how you define it, how you create it. And you're about to see opportunities expand where it comes to abundance in your life. This part of the sky also has to do with self-esteem and self-worth, and seeing yourself more prosperously is part of the blessing of this time for you as well. Now, what is remarkable at this time is a real sense of momentum, a real sense that all the work you did within, all the things you came to understand
Welcome to
about
the exciting rebirth of Superstar, featuring choose your membership rate as low as just $3 a month. At Superstar, you get expanded, exclusive video scopes each and every week, unlimited access to special horoscopes, class passes for Synchronicity University, consultations with me, and so much more. All of this in the Superstar space. I look forward to meeting you there.